Hello, I'm Heather, and the day I'm recording this is Thanksgiving of 2020. And what I kind of want to do is invite you to come with me for a little bit of a walk down memory lane. I realized recently that I think most of the people who have met me with since say 2018 probably know me through my year with a company called Radical Pleasurist, where I partnered up with a gal named Sophia Traeger, and we had a really fabulous time. So that was pretty much all of 2019 was my time with Radical Pleasurist. And this video that I'd like to share with you now is one that was I made in early March of 2020, and it was released in early April of 2020. And it was basically my farewell to Radical Pleasurist and kind of sharing what my upcoming plans were. So yeah, I'm just gonna turn that on now, and I have a couple points where I'm going to pause it and add a little bit more context, but I hope you find this this interesting, and I will also be sharing throughout the video what I am offering now, and a lot of it is our love offerings, and yeah, it'll become more clear. Okay, so here we go. All right, so again, this is a video that I made in mid-March of 2020. So it's part of the reason why I look so different. I'm in a different house. There's explanation behind that as well. And here we go.
I'm Heather Thomas Campbell. The definition of radical pleasurist is the courageous, open-hearted, badass human committed to experiencing radical pleasure every day, even when life feels shitty. This is the maverick who chooses pleasure over pain, fear, guilt, and shame. And by that definition, I will always be a radical pleasurist. However, I am no longer legally a radical pleasurist. And before I share how I will be helping people craft their own journeys towards supporting their bodies, healing through nourishing platonic touch, and truly recognizing their body's requests and needs, I'd like to share some context.
Okay, so I do talk for a couple of minutes really specifically about the work I did with Sophia as a coach. I met her in 2018, and I worked with her, essentially as a coach for a full year before the fall of 2018, when she invited me to be her business partner. And so let's see, I'm going to skip forward to 244. That's where I start sharing some basically where I was in 2018, kind of like what my life was like and what I was struggling with. And I feel like that's important because I know that the things I was struggling with back then are super, super common. And I also just like to, anyway, I know I'm getting lost in the words, so let's just go from here.
Deal. And in the spring of 2018, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, was recovering from a serious head injury. And we were going through a particularly challenging time together. And it felt like pretty much all of our interactions, at least one of us, ended in tears. Fortunately, they were frequently at bedtime, so we were frequently going to bed angry at each other. And yeah, it was really, really miserable. I missed her a lot. So I shared the details of one particularly difficult interaction with Sophia on March 19th and ended the email with this. The next day, I waited until we were both pretty calm and not busy and brought it up. I knew she'd likely forgotten the content of the argument because her short-term memory is currently on the fritz, but not the feelings. I said I was sorry. I realized I was doing some of the same behaviors that make me so upset when my mom or my brothers do them to me. It doesn't make it okay, but I have to recognize I'm doing a behavior before I can change it. So I was thankful for the opportunity to recognize it. She thanked me for the apology. She also said she knows since she's the only one around because I'm a single mom and it was just her and I in a 1-bedroom apartment. Sometimes I'm going to lose it and it will be directed at her. She usually remembers that and doesn't take it personally. Since then, we've been doing really well. There have been some flare-ups, but each of us is having caught ourselves before it gets out of hand. Even if the initial response is anger, we are taking the time to independently try to understand where the other is coming from, and then coming back and confirming the understanding is correct. It's hard remembering she's no longer a young child. She's truly becoming a woman with fully formed ideas of her very own, and they are often different than mine. She used to be my mini-me in pretty much every way. That's no longer the case. Thanks for listening, Heather. I had...
Okay, so at this point, I actually share another anecdote about an experience with my stepdad, which is quite lovely, but just for the essence of time, I'm going to skip it. I will share in the description box a direct link to this video that I'm using right now. It's stored on my Heather Thomas Campbell. No, it's stored on my Heather's Full Catastrophe channel, as well as it is also on the Radical Pleasurist channel. Okay, so now I'm going to skip to this point. So I basically transcribed and emailed Sophia. Again, this was in the context of our coaching relationship in 2018. A conversation I'd had in my head with myself, and I know it can be a little difficult to identify the two different voices, but stick with it. I think it'll be fairly clear.
And what it felt like in my body, and how much I enjoyed that time with him. Now, typically, I don't transcribe conversations that I have in my head, but this one I did. And I shared it with Sophia on, July 13th, 2018. So I was reminding myself, focus on the feelings. And then I asked, how did it feel to cry so much and so often that it was part of your identity?
What I'm referring to then, when that question that I'm asking of my younger self is, for the span of many, many years, I just literally cried like all the time. I would cry on the bus. I would cry in business meetings. I would cry at home. A commercial would get me going. Like, I just cried so easily. And so I'm asking myself, how did it feel for crying to literally be a part of your identity?
Embarrassing. What else? What did it feel like when you were in a situation that felt inappropriate to cry and it just started happening? I would often start yelling at myself in my head, stop it, stop crying. No, it's not okay. There was a lot of other mean stuff I said to myself too. I'm feeling some relief right now, and that I honestly can't remember fully what I said. Okay, but how did it feel? Bad. My chest would constrict, my stomach would hurt, my head would get tighter. It was like a blood pressure cuff all over my body, getting tighter and tighter. Wow, that sounds really uncomfortable. Now, if you use the tone of voice you heard in your head and those words on a small child, how do you think they would react? They would cry. How do you feel now? Sad for that little kid in my head that got yelled at incessantly until I started working on changing that habit. You're crying now. How does it feel? It's a perfectly reasonable response to what I'm thinking about. No wonder I was so miserable so much of the time. No wonder my body hurt all over. I was beating myself up every minute of every day. I'm still feeling sad for that little kid in me. I'm going to go take a break and cry for a bit. So that was a transcription of the voices in my head in July of 2018. And what am I illustrating with these messages? I'm establishing some context. When I first started learning from Sophia, I felt fearful, anxious, and in physical pain, and particularly anytime a man was near me. So imagine how difficult that would be. I was a full-time rideshare driver. What that means is I invited strangers into my car for 5 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Most of them were men. So what did I do? I practiced. I practiced body tracking. I practiced the different ways of communicating that Sophia suggested. I practiced noticing the subtle shifts in my experience. I took notes. And what I share about my experience now and at any point really is not purely subjective. I have quantitative and qualitative data to remind me exactly what my experience of life was like at that time. And in the fall of 2018, Sophia invited me to be her business partner. And I enthusiastically and instantly agreed. Quite a bit of my evolution throughout the year of 2019 was done in full view and with the loving involvement of my community. It was on the dance floor, both ecstatic and contact improv. It was at retreats, at workshops, on the Everybody Show, in Radical Pleasurist videos, in posts and programs. And what is my experience now? It's hard to describe in words alone to really do it justice.
I pause for just a second, because at that point I'm describing my experience in, mid-March of 2020. It's so at this point I think I had lost all 6 of my jobs by this point. And I did have the early warning signs that I was about to have a full-on adrenal fatigue flare that it ended up lasting several months. So when I was making this video, I was like, okay, I know how amazing my life truly, truly is. There's an awareness that it's all about to change. I don't know how yet. And that I will share some of the details of what have changed since April or, March of 2020, now November of 2020. It's been quite a hell of a ride. And I've been practicing everything that I ever learned in order to honestly, in a lot of ways, thrive through it, even while I am having the really, really deep processing, releasing, difficult aspects. Well, that's right. I had this text that I wanted to read. This is something I wrote a friend in June. My life is a country music song. I am laughing, crying, screaming through it because I know that all this loss is creating space for some pretty fucking amazing experiences that I cannot yet conceive of from my current perspective. There was more, but that was it. So anyhow, I'm going to go back now to the video. I just wanted to give myself a little bit of honor there that a lot has changed since April. Yeah.
I can say that in contrast to where I was in early 2018, I have many truly wonderful, caring, supportive, funny, kind, intelligent humans in my life. I feel comfortable around men in a way I never have before. My daughter and I communicate much more easily now and enjoy each other's company from time to time. I'm deeply connected to my body. And while I do still feel challenged with a negative and mean inner critic committee sometimes, it's significantly less frequent and vicious. So that brings me to the next chapter of my evolution. Having recovered from chronic illness and all the things that life can throw at a human, all within a few years, divorce, frequent moves, home fire, family drama, job loss, bankruptcy, abusive relationships, single parenthood, child having health issues, I found a radical self-care process that moved me from barely surviving to thriving. By recognizing that the illness and pain I had in my body was in part a reflection of my own self-talk and the choices that I made, I vowed to heal and extend my hard-won lessons to help others. I am now offering my processes, my journey, and my testimony to nurture others towards recovery of full, vibrant lives. My wildly varied experiences, including holistic health and healing, somatic experiencing, project and event management, platonic touch, transformational communication, and radical acceptance of the moment, I am now teaching others to identify and articulate their desires and needs, how to connect more deeply with themselves and others, as well as release that trauma that's stored in your body through movement. Would you like to learn how I do that? Please visit my website, htcampbell.com, and schedule a free 20-minute Zoom session with me. In these particularly stressful times, it's more crucial than ever to put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others. We don't all have the same kind of oxygen mask, though, and many don't even know what theirs looks like. I can help you figure that out. So on this free call, we will create your own radical self-care plan that you can put into action immediately. Again, I'm Heather Thomas Campbell, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I never stopped offering, free radical self-care plans. I just stopped promoting it because I was practicing everything I'd ever learned. I My daughter and I did get separated in August, and she moved in with her best friend and her family, and I've moved 6 times since then. I do happen to be able to stay in this same house through the early part of January, and I'm so delighted to be able to just really relax and get my Christmas decorations out, and yeah, and all of that. And this is the perfect house for me. It's a very healing space with all the tools I could possibly desire, like an infrared sauna and a chi machine and a bathtub, and everything's comfy and cozy and beautiful. And I get to house sit, so I get the whole place to myself, except when I invite my sweetheart over. So yeah, to wrap this up, thank you for joining me in this little excursion to early 2020 as I reminded myself what my plans are and delight with me in my progress. And I absolutely do invite the opportunity to share time and space with you, whether that be in the form of a free 20-minute radical self-care plan, which you can book on my website. And that's the first step to anything. And then after that, if you would like to schedule more time, we can identify what an energy exchange would be, whether that be in the form of cash or trade or some other form of support. So I hope you are having an amazing day, and thank you for sharing this time and space with me. I'll talk to you later.